This table's for family only. So I let them handle their own $4,755 bill. Jackson, that's me, 35 years old. Finance guy, always on time, pays his taxes early, remembers birthdays nobody else does. And for the past decade, the invisible scaffolding that held my family up without ever being acknowledged for it. You know the type, right? The guy you call when you need help moving, need a loan, or a dog sitter last minute. But not the guy you invite into group photos. Not the guy you brag about. Definitely not the guy you consider special. Anyway, my younger brother Tyler? Whole different story. Tyler was the star from the jump. Charismatic, reckless, charming in that annoying rom-com kind of way. He could burn down the backyard shed and somehow get praised for finding a passion for fire safety. Meanwhile, I brought home straight A's and was told to stop showing off. So when he got engaged to Brooke, this picture-perfect Instagram-ready blonde with a thing for designer brunch spots, my parents, Mark and Dana, went all in. You'd think they were marrying her themselves the way they gushed. Jackson, sweetheart, my mom said over the phone, using that sugary tone she saves for when she wants something. We're throwing an engagement dinner for Tyler and Brooke. It's going to be a magical night. Would love for you to come. Of course, I said. Just send me the details. If you're not following our channel, you might never see it again. But if you're subscribed and use the bell, congratulations. You'll always have access to the most interesting stories whenever you want to watch and listen. A beat passed, and then, actually, since you've always had such good taste, could you maybe help with the restaurant booking? Just a deposit to hold the space. We'll pay you back. I should have said no. I knew that "we'll pay you back" was family code for "you'll never see that money again." But some tiny, masochistic part of me thought, maybe this time will be different. Maybe this time, they'll finally see me. So I called around, eventually landing on Magnolia on Main. This upscale rooftop spot in downtown Austin with skyline views and string lights that made you feel like you were in a Netflix wedding movie. I booked it for 20 people. Private section. Live music. I dropped a $950 deposit on my card. No hesitation. It wasn't about the money. It was about the chance. The sliver of hope that I'd finally be treated like family. The night of the dinner, I showed up right on time, 7 sharp. Navy suit. Freshly ironed shirt. Cufflinks I'd been saving since college graduation. I brought a bottle of champagne. The real stuff, not grocery store bubbles. And even had a card printed with their initials and wedding date. I was early, of course. I'm always early. The hostess at Magnolia gave me a polite nod and pointed toward the private rooftop section. As I stepped through the terrace doors, jazz music floated through the air. String lights glowed warm against the dusky sky. The tables were set with fresh floral centerpieces. White cloth napkins folded like origami. Classy as hell. And there they all were. My parents, Tyler, Brooke, her parents, their mutual friends. Laughing, sipping wine, clinking glasses. I walked over, smiling. I raised the bottle, expecting at least a smile back, maybe a "Hey Jackson, come join us." Instead, "Oh hey," Tyler said, barely glancing up. He spotted the champagne, gave a little nod. "Cool." Then he pointed off to the side toward a fold-out chair. Near the service station. Next to a trash bin. "Sorry," he said, his mouth twisting into that same smirk he used to give me as a kid when he broke my Lego sets. "This table's for family only." I blinked. Literally blinked. Was this a joke? A bit? I looked at my mom, but she just gave me a tight-lipped smile, like I'd shown up at the wrong time to the wrong party. Dad raised his glass in an awkward toast without saying a word. Brooke didn't even look at me. A few people chuckled, laughed, and in that moment, standing there holding that bottle like a fool, all I could feel was 13 again. 13 and excluded from the family group photo at my cousin's wedding because I clashed with the color palette. So I walked over to the fold-out chair, set the bottle on the floor, kept my coat on, sat down in silence. Nobody brought me a menu. Nobody asked if I wanted anything. I sat there for nearly 2 hours, watching them eat, toast, open gifts, watching my brother make a speech about how grateful he was for the people who meant the most to him. I could feel my ears burning, my chest tightening, my own heartbeat pounding in my throat. And I just kept sitting, and sitting, until dessert came out, and something finally snapped. By the time dessert hit the table, I'd memorized every crack in the cement floor beneath my chair. The jazz band had switched to slow classics, couples were clinking forks over some towering cake monstrosity with edible gold flakes, and I hadn't touched anything but a glass of lukewarm water. No one had spoken to me since I sat down. Not even a glance. And then, just when I thought the night couldn't feel more like a punch in the gut, the waiter walked over. Young guy, maybe 22, polite but stiff. He had one of those leather bill folders in hand and a look like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Excuse me, sir," he said, quiet but firm. "The total for the event is $4,755. Should I run it on the same card used for the deposit?" I didn't say anything right away, just stared at him. Then I slowly stood up. Calm. Measured. My voice came out low, but loud enough for the whole table to hear. "Not my table," I said. "I was told this table was for family only." Everything froze. Tyler's drink stopped midair. My mom's expression cracked like cheap porcelain. Dad sat up straighter. Brooke's dad leaned forward, clearly trying to catch up. Even the jazz band faltered for a beat before continuing in a slightly awkward shuffle. "Wait, what?" Tyler said, laughing like I was just being dramatic. "Dude, come on." It was a joke. My mom cut in, voice already dipping into her favorite mode, damage control. "Jackson, sweetheart, let's not make a scene. You always take things so personally." God, there it was. "You're too sensitive." The line she'd been using on me since second grade. The waiter stood there, bill still in hand, glancing between me and the rest of the stunned table. "I didn't eat. I didn't drink," I said, stepping out from behind the trash can and fold-out chair. "And I wasn't invited to sit with you. So no, I won't be paying." Tyler scoffed. The fake laugh turned defensive. "Dude, you seriously gonna leave us hanging like this?" "You already paid the deposit." "You're right," I said. I did pay the deposit. I called 6 different restaurants to find one with a rooftop, per Brooke's Pinterest mood board. I picked the date around your sports schedule. I ordered centerpieces because Mom said fake flowers ruin the vibe. I showed up early. In a suit. Alone. Now my hands were shaking. I did everything. Everything. And you sat me next to a trash can. There was a beat of pure silence so thick it felt like it had weight. Then Brooke's dad, a man I'd only met once before, spoke up. "You invited your brother to your engagement dinner," he said, looking straight at Tyler, "and sat him by the trash?" The air went thin. Tyler shifted in his seat. "It was symbolic," he muttered, like tongue-in-cheek. "Jackson knows I was messing around." Mom jumped in. "He's always been sensitive. You know how Jackson is." I laughed. Actually laughed. "You mean responsible? Quiet? The one you call when the roof leaks, but never invite for holidays." Brooke finally spoke up. "Maybe we should all just calm down. Don't bother," I said. "You clearly don't even know who I am." The waiter, poor guy, cleared his throat. "If the card on file won't be used, I'll need an alternate. We need to close the tab on the private space before we lock the register." I nodded toward the table. "Maybe they can all split it. You know, like family." I started to walk toward the elevator. And that's when Dad finally opened his mouth. "Jackson, come on," he said. "You already paid for half. Might as well just finish it." I stopped cold. And I lost it. "You might as well." I turned, eyes wide. I might as well pay nearly $5,000 to a bunch of people who couldn't even look at me all night. You might as well guilt the son you only remember when the mortgage is due. I was done being polite. You all made your choice. You treated me like a stranger. Like the help. Like someone you could use and ignore. So no, you can pay your own damn bill. Tyler stood up. "Fine, man. If this is really about the money, it's not about the money," I said. "It's about respect." And clearly, that was never on the menu tonight. I left without another word. Down the elevator. Out onto the quiet sidewalk of downtown Austin. The night air felt sharp. Clean. Honest. I didn't even feel embarrassed. I felt free. For the first time in years, I wasn't the background character in my own life. I was done being just Jackson. Before we go further, don't forget to like this story, hit subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss what happens next. So there I was, standing on the curb outside Magnolia on Main, suit jacket over my shoulder. Heart pounding like I'd just run a marathon. Not from anger, not anymore, but from the wild realization that I'd finally drawn a line. A clean one. And you know what? It felt good. Back upstairs, though, it was chaos. I didn't see it firsthand, of course. But word travels fast when drama's involved, and let's just say Brooke's cousin Ginny is a devout follower of group chats. Apparently, after I walked out, the room turned into a Game of Thrones family council. The waiter still stood there holding the bill, $4,755, staring back at them like a neon sign of guilt and bad decisions. You could practically hear the credit card balances groaning. Brooke's dad was the first to talk. "I think it's time someone stepped up," he said, in that disappointed but polite dad tone all men of his age group have mastered. "I assumed you had this under control, Tyler." Tyler, now red-faced, tried to laugh it off. "Come on, it's not a big deal. Jackson's just dramatic. I was gonna Venmo him later." Mom jumped in, nervously smiling, trying to glue the pieces of her perfect party back together. Well, we didn't expect him to make such a scene. Then, Brooke, who hadn't said much all night, crossed her arms and asked the question no one else had dared to voice. Wait, you expected Jackson to pay for the entire dinner? Mark, my dad, just shrugged. He has the best income out of all of us. Boom. There it was. No one denied it. No one even tried to say, we were going to split it. Because they weren't. They'd invited me, not out of love, but out of convenience. And suddenly, Brooke's family realized what I'd known for years, that this family runs on guilt, appearances, and unspoken expectations. I can't believe you didn't even include him at the table, Brooke's dad said. The man paid the deposit, sat alone for 2 hours, and you stuck him next to the trash. Tyler started to get defensive. Look, I said it was a joke. Brooke's mom, who'd stayed quiet most of the night, leaned in toward my mom, Dana, and said, if that's how you treat the people who support you, I'd hate to see how you treat the ones who don't. Oof. The waiter, still trying to do his job, gently asked again, will anyone be settling the bill? And that's when the check got passed around like a hot potato. My dad tried to hand it to Tyler. Tyler passed it to Brooke. Brooke slid it toward her dad. Her dad looked at Dana. Dana just sipped her wine like none of this was happening. Nobody wanted it. Eventually, it landed back in front of Tyler. The jazz band, bless them, switched to a smooth instrumental version of Hit the Road Jack, and I like to think that was on purpose. Meanwhile, I was at a dive bar 3 blocks away, sipping whiskey and watching people laugh over pool tables. I hadn't planned it. I just needed a place to go. Somewhere that didn't smell like overpriced roses and passive aggression. I pulled out my phone. Text from Tyler. You really embarrassed Mom tonight. Hope it was worth it. No apology. No ownership. Just deflection, as usual. I stared at it for a moment, then hit delete. A few minutes later, another buzz. From Brooke. Hey, I didn't realize how bad it was. I'm sorry. That was messed up. You deserved better. I stared at that one a little longer. Didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because I was tired. So tired of being the one who always absorbed the blow, swallowed the insult, paid the bill. I ordered another drink and looked out at the Austin skyline. The same skyline I'd chosen for them, for that damn rooftop dinner. And now it was just mine. Back at Magnolia, it took 45 more minutes of awkward stalling and whispered arguments before the check got split 5 ways, with Tyler and my parents footing most of it, and Brooke's dad chipping in, probably out of sheer secondhand embarrassment. No one left smiling. The engagement celebration was officially cursed. Even the cake got boxed up and forgotten. Later that night, I got one more message, this time from my mom. We need to talk. You made quite a scene tonight, Jackson. I just stared at it. No, are you okay? No, we're sorry. Just, we need to talk. And for once, I didn't feel guilty ignoring her. The next morning, I woke up in my apartment with the kind of clarity that only comes after a long overdue decision. Sunlight spilled in through the blinds, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel that heavy pit in my chest. No dread, no anxiety, just peace. Then my phone buzzed again. Mom. Same message she sent last night. No changes. Just that robotic tone she uses when she wants to regain control. We need to talk. You made quite a scene last night. I didn't reply. Not right away. I let the silence speak for me. But she didn't stop. Later that afternoon, she called. 3 times in a row. On the 4th ring, I picked up. You made your point, Jackson, she said. But was it really necessary to humiliate your brother in front of Brooke's family? I laughed. It just came out. Mom, I said. Did you seriously call me to talk about your embarrassment? She bristled. We just think you overreacted, of course you do. Because for you, pretending everything's fine has always been more important than admitting someone got hurt. Jackson, please no. Not this time. I've been quiet my whole life. Always the dependable one. Always the one cleaning up everyone else's mess. I've paid for repairs on your house, sent you money when Dad's job cut his hours, never missed a birthday or holiday even when I wasn't invited to sit at the table. And you never once said thank you. Not once. That's not true, she said weakly. Really? Because it felt true last night when you watched me sit alone like I was the waiter who wandered into the wrong room. She went quiet. Do you know how humiliating that was? I booked the restaurant, paid the deposit, wrote your precious boy a card. I even showed up early thinking maybe this time someone might treat me like family. And instead, Tyler points me to a folding chair by the trash. It was a misunderstanding, she mumbled. No, Mom. It was a decision. A deliberate choice. You all made it very clear where I stand. Silence. Then, her voice, quieter now. We didn't think it would upset you this much. And there it was. That old refrain. The one they've used since I was a teenager. You're too sensitive. Not you're right. Not we're sorry. Just you're too sensitive. I should have hung up right then. But I was already in too deep. You know what? I said. Maybe I am sensitive. Sensitive enough to finally stop pretending. Sensitive enough to finally realize that family doesn't mean unconditional loyalty to people who treat you like an afterthought. Her voice turned cold. You don't mean that I do. I've meant it for years. I just never said it out loud. But now I'm saying it. And with that, I ended the call. No yelling. No dramatic exit. Just a quiet click. Later that evening, I got a text from Tyler. Brooke's dad thinks I'm some kind of monster now. Thanks a lot, I didn't reply. And I wasn't going to. Because for once, I wasn't going to fix it. I wasn't going to apologize for their mess. They could sit in it. They could learn what it felt like to be on the outside. The rest of the week was quiet. Too quiet. No calls from Mom. No check-in text from Dad. Just an echoing silence that used to terrify me. But now, it felt like freedom. I went to the gym. Met up with a friend for drinks. Took a walk without checking my phone. Every step felt like peeling off years of guilt and expectation. Then, Friday night, I opened my inbox and saw it, a formal-looking email from Brooke. I hesitated, then clicked. She wrote a full page. Apologized. Said she hadn't realized how much I'd done for the dinner. That Tyler had never mentioned I paid the deposit. Said she was embarrassed by how it all played out, and that I didn't deserve any of it. Said she hoped things could still be mended. It was the first honest message I'd gotten in years from anyone in that family. I didn't know what to do with it. So I saved it. Didn't reply. Not yet. But it stayed with me. Maybe not everyone at that table was blind. Maybe one person saw the truth. Saturday morning started like any other. I made coffee, read the news, scrolled mindlessly through social media. But something was different. The weight in my chest, the quiet pressure I'd grown used to, it wasn't there. It felt like breathing after holding it for years. I hadn't heard from anyone else since the call with Mom. No surprise. My parents were never great at admitting fault. Tyler definitely wasn't. But still, there was a part of me waiting, hoping, maybe, that someone would finally say what I needed to hear. They didn't. I spent the day doing all the things I used to push aside. Ran errands. Cleaned out the closet. Donated a bunch of old clothes. Even went to the bookstore and sat for an hour flipping through a novel I'd meant to read 5 years ago. I didn't think about them once. Until I got the second text from Brooke. Just wanted to check in. I know things got tense. I'm really sorry again for how you were treated. Tyler. But I saw what happened and it wasn't okay that one I didn't ignore. I replied simply, thank you for saying that. It means more than you probably realize. No drama. No dragging the past back up. Just truth. That evening, Mom finally broke the silence. She sent a long message. Not an apology. More of a justification. She said families make mistakes. That I shouldn't turn my back on my brother. That things had just gotten out of hand. That I was being too harsh. I read it once. Twice. Then deleted it. Because it wasn't an apology. It was a plea for me to resume my role. The background character. The peacekeeper. The bank account. The ignored. And I was done playing that role. On Sunday, I blocked Tyler's number. Not in anger, just in quiet resolve. I didn't want more texts trying to guilt me. Didn't want another message about how I'd embarrassed him or ruined the vibe. I didn't care about the vibe anymore. Monday, I met with my therapist. I hadn't gone in over a year. She raised an eyebrow when I told her everything. That wasn't a dinner, Jackson, she said. That was a breaking point exactly, so what are you going to do now? I took a deep breath. Live my life. And stop waiting for them to invite me into theirs, she smiled. Sounds like a plan. I walked out of that session lighter than I'd felt in a decade. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't looking for an apology or a dramatic reunion. I didn't want revenge or payback. I just wanted space, peace, and the freedom to stop begging to be included. That night, I sat on my balcony with a glass of wine and thought about everything. The rooftop dinner, the folding chair. The moment I stood up and said the words they never expected. Not my table. And for the first time, I realized something. I didn't lose my family that night. I just finally saw them clearly. And sometimes clarity is better than closeness. Even if it hurts a little. The thing about silence, the real kind, not the awkward dinner pauses or the quiet guilt-laced tension at family gatherings, is that it teaches you. Forces you to sit with yourself. To figure out what was yours to carry all along, and what never should have been on your back in the first place. 2 weeks after the engagement dinner disaster, the dust had mostly settled. Or maybe I should say, people had stopped talking, at least to me. No new calls. No more messages from my mom. Tyler never reached out again. Probably still licking his wounds, or worse, still convinced I was the one who wronged him. And I'd be lying if I said that didn't sting. Because somewhere, buried deep in the layers of being the responsible one, was still that kid who wanted to be picked first, wanted to be seen, not as the quiet helper, not as the one they could guilt into doing the hard parts, just as family. I sat in my apartment that Friday night, going through an old box I hadn't touched in years. Photos, cards, a couple of drawings from when I was 6. Even found a yellowing thank you note from Tyler when I covered for him during his second failed college semester. He'd scrawled "Thanks, bro," with a smiley face. I put it back in the box. The next morning, I got a knock at my door. Wasn't expecting anyone. It was my father, wearing the same weather jacket he used to throw over a hoodie back when I was a teen. He looked older, tired, but not angry. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. He didn't sit. Just stood in the middle of the living room like a stranger trying to figure out how to start a conversation in a language he used to know. "Your mom's worried," he said. I nodded. "She always is. When she's not trying to control everything." He rubbed the back of his neck. "She's not great at this stuff. Neither am I. But I thought maybe we could talk." I let the pause hang there. Talk about what? How I was humiliated at a party I paid for. How I was treated like a stranger by my own family. He flinched, just a little. "We didn't mean to." Don't say you didn't mean it. You meant it enough not to stop at another silence." Finally, he sat down. "I've been thinking a lot since that night. About you. About how we've treated you over the years and we failed you, Jackson. Plain and simple. We let Tyler take the spotlight. Let your mother push the narrative that you were just quiet. Just there. We leaned on you too much. Took your silence as agreement. Your dependability as indifference. I didn't step in when I should have. That's on me. I didn't expect that. I really didn't." I watched him. This man who had never, not once, told me he was proud. Now sitting on my couch, admitting he got it wrong. Why now? Because it's hard to ignore what you did. It was brave. You stood up when most people would have swallowed the pain. And because Brooke's dad called me. Told me he would have walked out too if he'd been treated that way. I leaned back. "So what now? That depends on you." That answer, for once, didn't feel like a cop-out. It felt honest. "I'm not coming to the wedding," I said quietly. "I figured," he replied. "And I'm not footing any more bills. No more loans. No more invisible favors you shouldn't have to. I don't owe any of you anything, Dad." He nodded. "You're right." We sat there for a long while. Not as father and son. Just two men trying to undo years of quiet mistakes. When he stood to leave, he hesitated at the door. "I hope someday you'll let us in again. But I understand if that takes time." I didn't say anything. Just nodded. That night, I slept better than I had in months. The next morning, I did something symbolic. Something small, but powerful. I deleted the family group chat. I removed myself from the unspoken contract that said my role was to show up, pay up, and shut up. I started seeing friends more. Took time off work. Traveled to Denver, then Seattle. Cities where no one knew me as the forgotten brother or the free ATM. Just Jackson. And I started building something that I hadn't realized I needed until recently: a chosen family. People who saw me, laughed with me, asked nothing but presence and honesty. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was missing something. Because I wasn't. I wasn't the one who walked away from my family. They walked away from me a long time ago. I just finally stopped chasing them. And you know what? I'm good. Truly. Better than I've ever been. Because peace doesn't always come from fixing broken bonds. Sometimes it comes from walking away from the table that never had a seat for you in the first place. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it too. Also, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? What city and country? And have you or someone you know ever been through something like this?